Is the Ian Thomas hype train about to leave the station? Can drafting a running back heavy team help you win a six-figure grand prize? And what's the deal with Damian Williams' ADP? Plus the $30,000 2019 Footballguys Players Championship runner-up Bob Hoog joins us to talk about waiver wire aggression, drafting early best ball leagues, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Everybody, if you got what it takes, because I'm KRS and I'm on the mic and premieres.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
With the master rhymer, that's the lead behind the video rapper. You know, the truck driver, tapper.
Hey, thanks so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Balkaholics and all of you Gerzakin addicts. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I am your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the patron saint of fantasy football, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Dave, I have some news tonight.
Yes, what is it?
We've seen the commercials for Burger King. They have the Impossible Whopper.
Yes.
And my kids wanted to go play in the play place at a Burger King that was close to my house tonight.
They have play things there?
Yes,
okay.
and the Burger King one is actually their favorite one. So my wife said, hey, why don't you take them? She was out with one of her friends. So I took them to dinner there. Decided to get the Impossible Whopper.
For yourself?
And it was impossible for me to find it delicious.
Is that bad?
Did not care for it. Would not get it again.
You could totally tell it was not.
Totally tell.
Not a normal Whopper.
Yes. Now, it was not so bad that I would have thrown it out and not eaten it. It still was fine. It was okay. Would not get it again. Could totally tell the difference. Real beef tastes better. I'm sorry to all of our organic, granola, grass-fed, gluten-free listeners. Didn't care for it.
Well, you know, the soy in those raises your estrogen levels, too, so that's no good.
Oh,
I don't know if there's soy in them. Maybe not.
I have no idea.
Soy protein.
Soy raises your estrogen levels,
soy protein, not good for men.
So,
unless you want to have boobs.
Right, but I'm at this point in my life, I don't think I'd want any. Obviously, the best protein to eat is like your quote-unquote normal protein. If you're going to get like a plant-based or a quote-unquote fake protein, what's the way to go if it's not soy?
I don't know.
No?
I don't really search that up necessarily.
Well, I was just curious. I didn't know. Coming up on tonight's show.
Pea protein? Like PEA, I think.
Oh, really?
Some people.
Okay. All right.
I've seen that. I don't know.
Okay.
But, yeah, I prefer the normal animal, eggs, whatever.
If you're just listening for the first time on this show, this is not normally what we do, and I promise you it's the last time we do it on tonight's show.
Yeah, good start.
Coming up, we're going to talk about what kind of an impact Sammy Watkins' surprising comments are going to have on FFPC drafts, how you should be handling Ben Roethlisberger and the rest of the Steelers in drafts this season. Bob Hoog is going to tell us how he turned his only career Footballguys Players Championship entry into a $30,000 payday, and a special treat. We always love it on Super Bowl weekend. The prognosticator himself is going to drop in at the bottom of the hour to tell us a little bit about the props he's looking at for Super Bowl Sunday. We'll get you all set for that, and that will be the show tonight. Shout out to the chat room right now. You guys can post any questions you might have right inside there. Twitter is at HSFFO. I'm at Eric Balkman. Dave is at David Gerzak. The prognosticator is at Alex_FFPC. Facebook.com/HSFFO. 347-426-3682. 347-GAME-OVA is where to reach us. HighStakesFantasyFootball@gmail.com is the inbox that our producer, mutual friend Rob, and our audio engineer and best friend Bryce will be checking. Try to get to as many emails as we can tonight here on the show. Exciting stuff for the FFPC as it's 2 weeks now that the FFPC has offered best balls. You can sign up for those at the $35, $77, and $250 levels. Best balls, Superflex available, double ups also available there with 100% payout. Dynasty Orphans also available at myffpc.com/dynasty. Check out the list, make a claim, pick up a dynasty team. A lot of good teams out there. for not that much money. So check that out as well. And coming up next Thursday, rotoviz.com/podcast, 2019 FFPC main event, fifth-place team owner Adam Krautwurst will join me on the High Stakes Lowdown. Look for that on Thursday morning. Thanks to Football Guys, Roto World, and Rob for tonight's rundown. Let's get to it. Speaking this week on Pro Football Talk Live, this was this morning, Drew Brees was on. He said he is open to giving up more snaps to Taysom Hill if both are indeed playing for the Saints next year. The full quote: "If I'm back and Taysom's alongside me, call the plays that put us in the best position to win. If that means Taysom Hill is taking 30 snaps a game, 25 snaps a game, so be it. I'm all for that." Are fantasy owners all for that? Because this is coming up on his 15th season in the NFL, Dave, and a lot of people are going to be looking for Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, perhaps Jared Cook as well, to be difference makers in drafts this year. Thomas is a first-round pick. Kamara is a first-round pick. Jared Cook will be one of the top 7 or 8 tight ends off the board. I'm not sure if this is a good thing for Saints skill position players. Are you concerned about drafting any of those guys at their current spots, knowing that Taysom Hill, the gadget player himself, might be out there a little bit more than he was in 2019?
I'm not terribly concerned with it now. I mean, Michael Thomas was so dominant. Although he's being drafted, in pick 4, 5, or 6 right now in drafts, so he's going really early. I think he's just kind of being nice in a way. I don't think Taysom Hill is going to take many more snaps.
Okay.
If any more.
So it's a polite teammate thing that this is.
Assuming he's coming back, yeah.
Right.
They actually supposedly the Saints consider Hill to be a potential franchise quarterback, maybe running that pistol type offense like Lamar Jackson runs. If they can do it, I mean, he could be outstanding. He looks actually a bit like looks a little bit like Christian McCaffrey in how elusive he is.
Yeah.
But like a little bit, this sounds, he's a little bigger and stronger, probably not as fast, or maybe not as good of a 3-cone or quite as elusive, but he looks really great as a runner out there for sure.
Yeah, he does. Kamara is going at the 106. Michael Thomas going at the 104 on average in FFPC best balls. You on board with both those prices, regardless of who's playing quarterback?
Kamara seems a little bit pricey to me. I thought he didn't quite live up to that value last year, and he's going around the same spot.
He was running back 4 last year, going at the 104. Now he's running back 5 this year, going at the 106. So he slipped a little bit, but to your point, not that much.
Yeah, he hasn't slipped much, and he's not a full-time carry the load back. So who knows? I don't hate the pick necessarily, but I don't know how he's going to become. Like, he doesn't have really much of a shot to be RB2 probably, assuming that McCaffrey stays healthy and maybe Barkley stays healthy. And you got Elliott to deal with. There's a lot of great players.
There are. Yeah.
Henry, to deal with.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, there's 4 running backs going directly behind Alvin Kamara in drafts right now. You have Derrick Henry going right behind him, and I think once Henry signs with a team where we have a little bit more concrete evidence of where he's going to be playing, he might leapfrog Kamara.
Yeah, you'll have to see what happens with him.
Would you?
So he's a completely unrestricted free agent.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe that they didn't sign this guy.
Well, think about the running back contracts in the
I know,
NFL.
I get it. But I mean, he's still like young. He came in the NFL pretty young, so I mean, he was their entire offense.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, Ryan Tannehill, come on, he was great. A.J. Brown.
Yeah, they were fine.
Would you rather have Kamara or Derrick Henry this year only? 2020 season.
I mean, at this very moment, I guess Kamara, because the situation.
Joe, I'm going to give you the other 3 running backs going right behind Kamara. Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones. Would you rather have any of those guys over Alvin Kamara if you were drafting today?
Probably not, but Mixon's interesting. Mixon's kind of close if the team really improves.
You remember last year when the Joe Mixon hype train picked up? I feel like it's going to happen again this year.
Yeah, this time it'll be even more so.
Well, okay, they're getting that left tackle back that got the rookie that got hurt right away. They're getting, I mean, the offensive line certainly can't be any worse. They should get an improvement at quarterback, you would think. Zach Taylor can't do any worse as a head coach in year 2 than he did in year 1. I
mean, it does come back down to scoring touchdowns, and if you're not in the red zone, if your team's not doing well, I mean, if they're going to, if they draft that quarterback, if they're going to draft Joe Burrow, they have the number 1 pick? Is that right?
They do.
So and then is Dalton? I mean, was he a free agent?
Yeah.
I should know.
It's
like there's so much stuff going on, you can't really say.
There's a ton of free agent quarterbacks this year. A ton.
So they'll probably pick up a caretaker. Burrow sit the bench for like 4 or 5 games and then start, if that's how it usually would play out, right?
Cecil Lammy from Footballguys.com was at the Senior Bowl this week.
It'd be nice if we had a show where you didn't bring this guy up.
Just want to bring this up, where he said that he heard that Zach Taylor prefers the body type for Justin Herbert over Joe Burrow, and Herbert could be in play for the number 1 pick over Joe Burrow. because of his body type, Dave. That's what he's hearing.
That's nice.
Moving on.
I have no comments about.
I didn't expect you to have a comment. Just wanted to put that out there.
Thanks for that.
Panthers and Greg Olson have issued a joint statement today saying that they have mutually parted ways. Now, they cannot release him until after the Super Bowl, but he's already played 9 seasons in Carolina. It does not appear that there's going to be a 10th one. It's going to save the Panthers over $8 million against the cap. He's going to be 35 this season, and he's going to make $6.6 million. Sounds like Olson still wants to keep playing, but he said that he doesn't want to be part of a rebuild, which could be taking place in Carolina, especially that they're ushering in a new head coach, and Cam Newton is probably not going to be back there. He could get a job analyzing football for somebody like Fox or a different broadcasting network. Not really wanting to talk about Greg Olson here. I want to talk about Ian Thomas, Dave, a guy who has flashed in Olson's stead when he's missed before. What are your thoughts on Ian Thomas this year? Could we see a breakout for him? Right now, he is going as tight end 20 in the 12th round of FFPC best ball drafts.
Yeah, I think that's pretty all right value for him. I mean, he has, there's 32 NFL tight ends. Olson's not going to be back. Thomas has, like you said, flash, and plus he's gotten through those crappy early years where you're not very good at playing the position. So he's learned the position behind a great player like Olson. I think he's got some upside for sure, and I think top 12 is not totally out of the realm of possibilities. So that's a really nice spot that's taking him at the 20th tight end.
We don't know who the Carolina quarterback's going to be this year yet.
Not for sure, no.
Probably not going to be Kyle Allen. I mean, he kind of bombed towards the end of the season. You look at this, though. Matt Rule was the head coach at Baylor last year, put up a lot of points. He knows defense, he knows offense. So offense, obviously, is something he got a lot of experience with last year. Well, last 3 years at Baylor. Then you go into Carolina. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Ian Thomas, Christian McCaffrey. There's a lot of weapons there, Dave. This is kind of a unique situation where I don't know who the Carolina quarterback's going to be. I think I want to be in business with him, though, because he's probably not going to be picked as like a top 15 guy, and he might finish in the top 15.
There's so many quarterbacks are so super deep this coming year, so top 15 might be a stretch. But you're right, the offense is going to have elite weapons all over the place.
It boggles my mind that every year we say wait on quarterback, and it seems like you can wait longer and longer every single year. And I think that's what we're preaching again this year.
I don't know about that, but it's deep. But it's top quarterbacks are Lamar Jackson is going pick 20 or whatever he's going for a reason. He's a quarterback and a running back. You got 2 players for one.
Well, that is true. Would you want to be taking Lamar Jackson in the second round of FFPC drafts right now at the 209?
Probably not. But again, I haven't looked all that super closely. I guess I would just say this. I don't think it's crazy. Everyone's going to say the regression to the mean thing, blah 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 blah.
Right.
But I don't see any reason. I know that again they have a year to watch him and to figure him out. I don't think you can figure out talent like that. And he was, as we talked about, he was super productive in college. The highest scoring fantasy quarterback, if you calculated fantasy points in college, that's what he was, and that's what he is in a
pro style offense too.
Yeah, so he's been productive through his entire college and pro career fantasy wise. So I don't think you're going to necessarily. I don't know. I think there's a chance that people take him there and they aren't totally screwing up.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. The top 3 quarterbacks going off the board right now in FFPC best balls: Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. No real surprise there. Can you guess who the number 4 quarterback is in FFPC best balls going off in the 7th round right now, Dave?
Oh man.
Give you a hint. He's young and he's black.
Well, Russell Wilson's not young enough anymore.
No, that's correct. That is not Russell Wilson. In fact, I think Russell Wilson is number 5 right now. This guy is a guy who got – yeah,
you should really know this.
Wilson is quarterback 5. He was hyped up last year by you, actually, and other people. Put up some pretty good – nope, not Dak Prescott, younger than Prescott. He's a guy that actually put up really good numbers last year as a rookie, and if you took him in dynasty drafts, you're probably loving life right now, especially when you consider that he'll be throwing passes to one Andy Isabella this coming year, allegedly.
Oh, yeah, Kyler. That's why I did see that Kyler was – I was actually surprised. I think that's early for Kyler Murray, even though I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
And still do.
Do you have him in a lot of dynasties? Who do you own more of in dynasty, Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray?
I don't know offhand. I own 4 or 5 of Lamar Jacksons out of 8, and probably a similar amount of Kyler Murray. I own Kyler Murray and Jackson together on a few teams.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
I'll skip to my next question after that. If you were – okay, this is a perfect example, Dave. You own Lamar Jackson, you own Kyler Murray in a couple of teams. somebody says, hey, what would you be willing to, or what would you take in exchange for Lamar Jackson in the dynasty right now? What would you do? What would it take for you to, 2 first-rounders plus something else?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I'm interested in trading.
Can't put a price on him right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that he's untradeable, but I mean, he's so far superior to other dynasty quarterbacks that I just don't know that. I don't know that an offer could be made unless Lamar Jackson was like my only real big asset and I really needed to improve it in a bunch of areas.
Right.
That's different. But I don't.
So like my teams.
I don't know. I feel like the point differential you're getting from him is just it's almost too much to overcome unless you get back a Mahomes or a Kyler Murray and then a little something. You know?
Sort of need that that ready. Even with Kyler Murray, you sort of need that ready replacement. You know.
Early last year in one league, I had Dak Prescott, Murray, Lamar Jackson, and Mahomes, and I dealt.
Oh my God!
You got lucky or whatever, and I dealt away Lamar Jackson really early for Mark Andrews because my tight ends were terrible. Which turned. I mean,
do you still have the other 3 quarterbacks?
I actually regret that trade.
Yeah.
No, and then I trade away Mahomes for Stephon Diggs or something like that. But I have Prescott and Murray, and then
just fine.
Yeah, so I'm fine with that. And I think I got a second back, but whatever. Yeah, so I mean, I'm willing to make those trades. But Lamar Jackson, I traded him before he really broke out.
I get it. Yeah.
So I feel like I do still regret it, even though I needed Andrews, and he did help me. I mean, my team did well last year in that league.
Hey, we got
not that anyone cares.
No. This is what people love hearing about this stuff.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
We have the FPC runner-up, Bob Hoog, on deck here, and we're going to get to him in just 1 second. The last thing I want to bring up, Dave, I don't know if you saw Sammy Watkins' comments at the Super Bowl. He said he's not sure if he's going to play next season. He says if they win it, he might chill out. He might sit out a year. He says he's not going to retire, but he might want to rest up and chill. So this is interesting. Sammy Watkins is going low enough in redraft leagues that I'm fine taking somebody else, obviously, not knowing if he's going to play at all. But in dynasty leagues, Dave, how do you assess this? Would you be looking at Watkins as a buy low? Would you be looking to get rid of him at this point based on these comments?
You're not getting anything for Watkins, so no reason to sell him. I guess if you want to buy him, you could buy him for a third or whatever. But
really, you think you get him for a third?
I mean, I wouldn't pay a second. I don't think for Watkins.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
So I mean, either get him for a third or you don't get him at all.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I think his comments were mostly cap related. I mean, he realizes he's going to be a cap casualty or he's going to have to take a pay cut. He's definitely not worth $14 million a year. So.
Okay, that's fine. Then I guess that begs the question: are you want to be in business as DeMarcus Robinson or Mecole Hardman then? Because they would ostensibly be the number 2.
Yeah, Hardman.
Wide receiver for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I like Hardman. Definitely would be the player I'd be interested in, and I think Watkins could be all right on another team. He'd have to move though.
Yeah.
In order to actually be productive again.
All right, good stuff there. Appreciate that, Dave. Good insight as always. Let's get into tonight's guest. He has been playing fantasy football in the same league for 21 seasons. He's won that league in 6 of those seasons. This was the first year, this past year, that he's done anything more than his home league. The Footballguys Players Championship is the only draft he's ever done in the competition.
Yes.
He also did some FFPC leagues. He finished in the playoffs in the 4 classic leagues he joined. However, in the best ball leagues, didn't have that same success. We don't want to talk about that tonight. We want to talk about how he won $30,000 as the runner-up in the 2019 Footballguys Players Championship. Please welcome into the show Mr. Bob Hoog. Bob, so much happiness to have you on tonight. I know you're celebrating a big 2019 victory. Happy Super Bowl weekend, man.
Thanks very much, guys. Good to talk to you.
So this is pretty exciting. We're going to get into this, but you decided to do the FPC this year, first time ever. And you turned $350 into $30,000. Did you ever see it working out anywhere close to this good your first year?
No way. I thought I did it. I had a terrible draft. The thing. I'm used to a 10-team league, and this was my first go to 12-team league. And the other thing was that we've got a lot of good players in our league, but there's always a couple of guys who make some mistakes, and I usually try to capitalize on those mistakes. But in this one, nobody was making mistakes. So I got to say, I did not feel great coming out of the draft.
Bob, we're going to talk about your draft much more so here coming up. But before we do, just real quick, can you let the listeners know what you're doing for a living when you're not winning $30,000 in one FPC draft?
Sure. I'm a partner in a financial technology firm in New York City, so it kind of keeps me busy.
financial technology, Dave, combining two of your favorite pastimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. So the 30,000, that's like a bar tab for you guys, one night out at the scene in New York, right?
Not in a long time.
All right. He's mature.
Isn't that what you pay for parking for a couple hours in Manhattan?
That's what actually accurate.
Right.
Let me ask you. So as stated, it's the only Football Guys team you drafted this year. You drafted it back in July. Kind of a little shout out to early drafting for everybody. It can be done. You can win. So as you said, you really didn't like your draft. Was there any level of confidence whatsoever about you? I mean, was there anything that you liked on the team? Did you like the running backs or the receivers?
Yeah, I mean, well, I thought Tom. I was in number 7, and so the stud running backs were by, and I did get Michael Thomas, which I did like that just because I figured, I've liked him for a couple of years. He's got a very high floor, and early in the draft, I'm looking for safety more than anything. So, he's got a low variance week to week, which I like in a wide receiver. So I was fine with him. I really like James Winston this year. I got him on probably every team I drafted. And he turned out okay. And I also like Godwin a lot. I think I got him in about the 5th round. So those I was good with. The running backs, I hated. Aaron Jones wound up okay, but and the tight ends were awful. I was picking up tight ends off the waivers all year just to make up for that.
Yeah, our good buddy Darren Armani at Fantasy Mojo on Twitter actually sent out a tweet saying that you drafted 3 tight ends and they're escaping me right now. I know Gronk was one of them, and the other 2 weren't that great. So you're kind of playing.
Trey Burton was one, and I think Swain might have been the other one. Yeah. At the bottom.
So
yeah.
And it wasn't great. So obviously all season you're kind of going up against the great, but then you hit on Higbee late, and then Tyler Higbee ends up crushing it in the championship round. So I guess my question to you is, was it after the Higbee pickup, or at what point did you stop hating this team and think, hey, I got a chance to win some real money here?
Well, I was grinding out wins over the early part of the year. The Pats defense came through a couple of weeks. Godwin had a couple of big weeks. So I was, I had a decent record in the regular season, and I was like, well, maybe this isn't as bad as I thought. And then also, I think, to be honest, being used to looking at a 10-team roster and comparing that to a 12-team roster, I mean, I figured out that there's a big difference there, right? So maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but as we got into the year and I was sitting there at like 8-1 or something like that in the regular season, I was like, this is fine.
It turned out really fine, I would say, after week 16, no question. In your prep for this Football Guys draft, I think you drafted this team in late July. You did a lot of best ball leagues this season. Besides having some actual personalized ADP when you do these drafts, what advantage do you think your participation there? I know you said you came up short in a few of them, but what sort of advantage did you get when you're drafting those best ball leagues before you're drafting this Football Guys team where you end up winning $30,000?
Well, actually, most of those best balls were after this. Team, and I did those just for the fun. I mean, I really liked it. But I mean, I will say, over the course of doing a bunch of best balls, you really, if you're observant, you can really notice the trends and kind of who's moving. And I think so that's something I'm definitely going to do next year. I mean, there's a lot of good, I think, really sharp guys who are taking part in these things, and it really sort of hones your skill.
Well, one thing that a lot of the fantasy analysts and fantasy Twitter has been talking about for quite maybe like 5-6 years now,
probably more,
even more. They've been talking about the whole zero RB thing, and it's been a trend. In this draft, however, you did take Michael Thomas, but then you took Damian Williams, Aaron Jones, Sony Michel. So 3 of your first 4 picks are running backs. So you kind of avoided that trend. Why was that the foundation you chose to build this team upon?
Well, I think it depended on the kind of the draft position. Had I been able to get Kamara or Barkley or something like that early, I probably would have done that and pivoted away. but by the time he came back to me in the second round, like I thought all the most of the safer running backs were gone, and so I just wanted to make up for it in volume. Out of those guys, I figured at least one would have a decent year. I wasn't sure who it might be, but it turned out to be Aaron Jones, who had a good year.
Bob Hoog, the runner-up in the 2019 Footballguys Players Championship, joining us here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour this week. Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak here. Last year, obviously, we brought this up. It was your first year playing in the FFPC. What do you think was the biggest adjustment that you had to make from, I know you said your normal league is a 10-team league. Obviously, these go to 12-team leagues, then there's certainly an adjustment there. What do you think the biggest adjustment, the hardest change you had to make in order to be successful at this level?
First of all, like I said, in the draft, there are very few mistakes. And so my standard, approach of just kind of, not having any favorites, just sitting back and seeing kind of, who falls, didn't really work because nobody fell. And then, the other thing I would say is, even though I had read the rules and I understood the premium on tight end scoring, I didn't really understand the effect of that in practice. And one thing I definitely learned is that, a lot of the more successful teams, and when I looked at the championship round, I noticed this. A lot of guys had 2, even 3 premium tight ends. So, that was something I wasn't used to, and something I'll definitely remember for next year.
It is kind of funny, though, with the tight ends, how we have had, and we always bring up the past champions that have had non-elite tight ends. And Higbee was an elite performer through weeks 14 through 16, so he turned into that, lightning in a bottle elite tight end temporarily. But yeah,
at the right time.
At the right time, yeah. And it gets tough, though, when you're taking guys, let's say you take, like you or somebody took Kittle and Ertz, well, then you have to really be hitting all over the place everywhere else to get the rest of your team into that championship run. You had to have had, whether it's a Winston or Lamar Jackson, but you had to have hit maybe like a DJ Chark or somebody at wide receiver. But so either way, you have to hit to win in the long run. But it just shows that you can really do it a bunch of different ways. Well,
and to Bob's point too, he hated his team. And you said this, Bob, you thought the team was garbage, but you were hyper aggressive on the waiver wire. Got fortunate with acquiring some pretty significant players and made it work. So you don't necessarily have to. I know we always put the emphasis during drafting season. Oh, well, and at Two-Packer, did you win after the draft? And everybody posts those on Twitter. And everybody thinks like, well, if you had a bad draft, you're dead money. That's not necessarily the case. And now we have a guy like Bob, like you come on, who outlasts 8,498 other teams to get second place in this. And it's really a testament of even if you don't like your draft, you can still make a lot of hay on the waiver wire.
Yeah, I mean, I picked up, like you said, Higbee, and a lot of guys over the course of the year, and most of the time it was, for very little fab, because I was constantly churning the bottom of my roster. I more than look out there and say, okay, who's promising? Who might I pick up? I kind of looked at the roster and I said, who am I never going to play here? Let's just get rid of them and then take a chance on somebody else and just spend $1 or $5 on it. And sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't, but I guess enough of them worked.
Bob, a couple of emails that came in for you this week that I wanted to read to you, get your opinion on them. The first one's from Dan in Payne Springs, Texas. He writes, how do you feel about Ezekiel Elliott this season? He's going as the third running back in FFPC, but I'm wondering if all that mileage is starting to catch up to him. Thanks, Bob. That is Dan in Payne Springs, Texas. Thanks so much for the email. Appreciate it. Your thoughts on Ezekiel Elliott, Bob? He is indeed going early, obviously, as he was last year, too. Right now he's being drafted as the RB3 at the 104. Is that a place that you'd like to take Ezekiel Elliott this season?
I mean, I think you almost have to do it. At some point, the mileage is going to catch up to him. I haven't done any research yet, so I don't know exactly how many touches he had last year, but I know it was a lot. But he's got a great offensive line there. And I think with the new coach, they're going to be under some, a bit of pressure to just kind of get it done right away. So, he's going to get the same workload. I don't think they're going to start tapering him off. So, if you're sitting there at 3, I think you almost kind of have to take him.
I'm trying to find the total. He had 301 rushes last year, and then he also caught 54 balls. So you're looking at, remember the curse of 350, Dave? That's out the window.
I thought it was 400.
It was a okay, well then he's fine. That's only 355 total touches.
I thought it was 370. The Football Outsiders?
370.
Oh, yeah, right.
370. You split the difference. That's why we have Bob on for stuff like this. So he's under that. But to your point, that was a lot. It actually was the lowest of his career as far as rushes go, except for 2017, but he only played 10 games that year because of injury. And then as far as catches go, he had 77 in 2018. His 54 last year were the second highest of his career. So certainly, you're right. They're going to keep using him. I get why people take him as high as they do, and we'll see what happens with the new head coach and Mike McCarthy there and see how he treats him. One more email. Frank in Chicago. He writes, I get that he had a bad season, but should Sony Michel really be going off as the number 39 running back right now? The 9th round seems like a steal for him. That's Frank in Chicago. This is a guy that you had drafted last year, Bob. And Sony Michel, he finished as RB 32 last year in FFPC scoring. So now he's the 39th running back off the board. Does that seem like a pretty good value to you, or are you still staying away based on his performance in 2019?
That's great value. Yeah, it's great. I'm a Patriots fan, and so I see most of the games. And a couple of things. He had another knee cleanup in the prior to the season, which I think sapped a little bit of his explosiveness. Their line was struggling with injuries last year, and they'll get Andrews back at center. Isaiah Wynn should be left tackle all year. And also, very importantly, James Devlin, the fullback, was out for a lot of the year, and his yards per attempt with and without Devlin are striking. So, I don't think he's going to lead the league, but I do think he's certainly worth where he's going. And and if God forbid they don't get Brady back, they're going to be running the ball quite a lot.
Okay, so that's let me just make this a two-part question now that I know that you're a Patriots guy, Bob. Where is Tom Brady playing week 1, and who is the Patriots quarterback in week 1? And it's fine if it's the same answer to both questions.
It better be the same answer to both questions. I tell you, I think all sides would agree. They don't have a quarterback who's ready. The only potential option, maybe like if the offense had more weapons, maybe like a Tannehill could be a stopgap or something like that. But I really think it's in everybody's best interest for him to come back. The one thing that scares me is, I think that Belichick really wants to win one without Brady. And, he just, he might decide that this is the year that he starts trying to do that. It's interesting to me who's making the decision. Is it Kraft or is it Belichick? I think if it's Kraft, he's there at any cost. And if it's Belichick, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go. And if he asked where would he go, Chargers or Raiders, I think, seem to be the options that make the most sense.
All right, so this is one of our key great questions that we cultivate information from you. So this is redraft only, no dynasty info, even though it's dynasty season. So we're looking for a player that you think is going to be overdrafted this coming year and a sleeper that you're going to be targeting late.
So, I did glance at some of the early drafts, and the one guy who I saw Kenny Galladay, and going towards the end of the second round in some, and at that level, I just would not be able to stand the inconsistency from a wide receiver that he's shown. I think he has like 2 or 3 games in single digits for fantasy points this year, and I just can't see taking a guy that high.
All right, Galladay.
If I miss on him.
Got it.
Yeah, and if I miss on him and he has a monster year, I can live with it.
Kenny Golladay is not a wide receiver one, according to the show's mascot at Two-Packer. He's being drafted as one right now. I think we brought this up on the show last week. He's going at the 303 in FFPC best balls as the 9th receiver off the board. A lot of inconsistency there, as you pointed out, Bob. And I don't know if I'd want to be in business with him there. You get guys like Amari Cooper, Odell Beckham, Keenan Allen going after him. Juju Smith-Schuster, Dave, is an interesting guy at the end of the 3rd round. Yeah, I think he bounces back with Ben Roethlisberger this year, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I do. I think he'll have a great year.
Bob, what about you? With Smith-Schuster, you think he bounces back?
I don't know. I had him. I might have. I've got scars from him for this year. My fear with him is I don't think we've seen him thrive as a number one guy who's drawing, the opponent's number one quarterback. And so until that happens, I think I'm gonna pass.
We found out who you are avoiding early. Do you have a mid-round sleeper or a late-round sleeper or any guy that you'll be targeting late?
I think Jonnu Smith is a guy who I saw play a bunch towards the end of the year, and just really looks like a freak athlete. Delaney Walker, I think, is probably, gone or on his last legs. I think and the Titans look really good. I think they're going to have a good offense again. So he's a guy that I'm going to be looking at.
We want to get your Super Bowl prediction. Obviously, we're contractually obligated by the NFL since we do a fantasy football podcast to give
Super Bowl, not the big game.
Yeah, we've been playing
Super Bowl.
We've been playing that shtick up on my local
really?
talk show. Oh yeah, like
don't worry, they're not paying attention.
No,
just like here.
Leo's he's like, oh yeah, the big game. Like you can't say big or game. Well, it's the Niners and the Chiefs. You can't say Niners or Chiefs. Well, it's the big football game. You can't say football. So we've been playing that up all week. It's been fun. But Bob, your prediction. How is this game going to go? Can you give us a final score?
Final score. Wow. I obviously two very closely matched teams. I think the Niners, might be able to control the clock a little bit with their running game. I mean, they run the ball so many ways. And I also think, they've got the pass rush that could make Mahomes a little bit uncomfortable. So, I would go with the Niners in a very close game, 35-31 or something like that.
No, I mean, I think it's a high-scoring game too. It seems like the chic pick, Dave, is to say, well, every time you get a defensive coordinator and a team with a good defense, 2 weeks to prepare, they always shut down the offense. So everybody's predicting a low-scoring game where the Niners winning. Not me. I'm loving the Niners getting up I'll just give my prediction now. Niners get up 14-0, obviously, because the Chiefs get down by double digits every playoff game, it seems like. And then the Chiefs come roaring back, and we go from the lowest-scoring Super Bowl game in history to the highest-scoring one.
Oh, yeah.
43-35, Kansas City, baby. It's going to be fun. Wow. Buckle up. I'm not watching this game without a seatbelt on.
Man, that is something else.
It's going to be fun.
Well, good. I'm glad. Thanks for that, Falky. I really appreciate it. At least Bob had a good prediction there. That was nice. So let's talk about the $30,000 you won. It's a nice payday.
Sure.
Maybe not for you, but you're making good money in New York, obviously. So maybe it's paying your property taxes or whatever. But is there any plans for you to spend the cash other than just day-to-day expenses?
I think this question's probably for my wife, but we have a son who's starting college next year, so I'm sure it'll come in handy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
well, congratulations.
That's a good way to spend it for sure.
Does he know where he's going yet?
Thank you. He's going to Northeastern in Boston.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Listen, Bob, this was fun. We really enjoyed having you on. Congratulations. Only one more spot to go until you win the big one. As you had probably the greatest debut in Football Guys Players Championship history, I would say, to get second place out of 8,500 teams in year one. So congratulations to you on that. Best of luck in all your leagues this year. Enjoy the Super Bowl and be good. We'll talk to you again soon, dude.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys. I had a lot of fun. See you.
Thank you. Bob Hoog, ladies and gentlemen, the second place team in the Football Guys Players Championship in 2019. One career entry, and he wins $30,000. Now that is this is the type of guy who really got to pick his brain, and I feel like we learned a lot tonight.
Yeah, that was great. I enjoyed it.
We have the prognosticator coming up in a few minutes, Dave. We have some time. We might as well just pound out a couple of emails here. I tried to get to as many. I told everybody I'd get to as many as I could. I'm going to kick things off with Mike in Visalia, California. This is one that he's asking about Deebo Samuel, and we kind of touched on this last week. I just don't feel like we got very in-depth on it. He writes, Dear Jerry and John, how big of a leap do you see Deebo Samuel making this season? Go Niners. That's Mike in Visalia, California. Thank you for the email, Mike. From week 10 on, Dave, this year, Deebo Samuel was wide receiver 9.
Wow.
And that's sort of like obviously when he, I don't want to say kicked the rookie curve or what have you, but he made a lot of plays. The Niners schemed him in on a lot of plays. And, he had a good number of touchdowns. That'll regress a little bit. But I feel like the fact that he was so involved and really only had a half season of production is going to make him that much more valuable this year. And if you look at where he's going right now in FFPC best ball drafts, wide receiver 27 in the 7th round. I mean, that's
nice value.
That screams value to me now. I
think he's going to move up. I think as people start to realize that, you have that bonus second-year breakout, and he is the number 1 receiver for that team. He's got a good quarterback. Garoppolo is decent. Just because they only threw 8 passes against the Packers, I mean, most teams aren't that sad against the run.
Right,
so
yeah.
And
what's sad about that is the Packers actually could have slowed Mostert down. It was the coaching that kept all those defensive backs out there in that dime package for most of the game. When they knew the Niners were not going to pass the ball, and the fact that they're so stubborn, that's what blows my mind on that. You had the personnel, you had the means at top of me. You did.
Yep.
Deebo Samuel, DJ Chark is going ahead of him. I'd rather have Samuel.
Chark's pretty good though.
He's all right, but that's Jacksonville too. Although did we talk about this? Jay Gruden is the offensive coordinator now in Jacksonville.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly.
Okay, all right.
Last week or two.
Devontae Parker is going ahead of Deebo Samuel. I think I'd rather have Samuel.
I think I would too, actually. There.
I think you brought this up, and it's something that's been in the back of my mind. Is this whole Preston Williams thing?
Yeah.
That's when Parker really stepped up.
Yeah, when Williams got hurt. Preston Williams is a value right now. He's actually ahead of his recovery for knee surgery, so I think he's going to be in good shape.
Oh, and the fact that he got hurt so young. You want to guess what round he's going in?
15th.
13th. As wide receiver 51.
Yeah, that's nice.
You know what I'm going to say. You know what that is.
Hang on, let me mute your stuff.
Preston Williams at the wide receiver 51. All right, let's get to our next guest here tonight.
What are you drinking over there? That looks like you took some water out of a creek.
This is the Good City Brewing, which is located 2 hours south of us in Milwaukee.
Like murky water.
They have a varietal series, which is they use a different type of hops in each one. This is the 3rd one I've tried.
That's called houseplant hops. They took the dirt out. And
come on.
They watered the plant, and anyway.
This is a hazy double IPA that uses only Eldorado hops, which are typically found in the Pacific Northwest.
Eldorado.
So it's you get sort of a candied cherry aroma to it, and it's mostly like a mango flavor.
Wonderful.
So, very good.
Very nice.
All right, let's get into our next guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen. One of the co-founders of the Fantasy Football Players Championship. You know him better as our prop bet expert. He is here to talk all about his favorite Super Bowl prop bets for this weekend. Please welcome in the prognosticator himself, Alex Kaganoski. Alex, thanks so much for joining the program again this year, man.
It is my pleasure, and it reminds me that it's been a year since I've done this.
I think it was 2 years because I think last year you took the year off because you were busy with other stuff and you didn't come on. So I think it's been 2 years since we've had you on. Oh,
no, I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, I remember the props that I gave you, too. Yeah.
All right. Did they hit? I guess that's the big question.
Yes, they did, actually.
All right, so pay attention, everybody.
I'm actually writing these down.
You're going to get some winners.
I'm going to be placing bets on all these.
All right, now, so before we get to yours, Alex, Dave and I were actually talking off the air about some props, and Dave brought one up that I wanted to give him the floor on tonight about Patrick Mahomes' rushing yards. And I don't know if this is going to make your list or anything like that, but it's actually at 30.5. And Anthony Amico from RotoViz, one of the friends of the show, I believe he's been in Pros vs. Joe's multiple times. He had some interesting stuff to say about this. Dave, do you have it up in front of you?
Yeah, I do it. Where is it now?
About the reason why you should be betting the under. Or taking the under at 30.5 rushing yards for Patrick Mahomes.
Just because they play, first of all, they play his own defense. Their backs will face Mahomes less often. talking about the Niners D-line being fantastic, and they'll focus on keeping Mahomes contained. San Fran only has allowed guys like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray to run on them this year. And Mahomes, this is interesting, has only hit 30 yards rushing in 5 of 31 career starts in the regular season and 7 of 33 including playoffs. So he just generally doesn't rush for 30 yards plus, and it's plus 113, so you're getting points. You're getting money.
Yeah. So he is on my list. That particular prop is on my list. I agree with a lot of what Anthony said. And I would also add that there's a little bit of recency bias, I think, in that line, because I think the last few games he's been running a little bit more. I think that total, if I just kind of guess based on memory, the total throughout the year on him was probably half that, maybe in the high teens, maybe 20, something in that neighborhood, as far as the total on his rushing yards was. Because I remember I hit it a couple of times on the over when it was in the teens, and the other thing I would say about the Niner defense, I would say, just by watching, I don't really know the stats and stuff like that, but they seem like a pretty fast defense up front and in the linebacker position, so I could see them defending his rush pretty good. So with all that said, I probably wouldn't. I may go under on the 30.5. My particular book has 36.5. So I'm obviously going under. Now I'm not getting the plus. I'm actually laying 15 cents, but I don't mind laying 15. Paying up for the extra 6.5 yards, because that's a huge. 6.5 yards for a quarterback is a huge number.
That's a big difference. That's great though. That's good stuff.
So, Alex, what besides that one, what other ones are you interested? What other ones are standing out to you right now on Super Bowl weekend? Are there a bunch? Are there a few that you're targeting? How are you handling this?
Let's let him talk, and then he'll tell us.
Yeah. So, today was actually the first day. To be very honest, I in anticipation of this call, I looked at the props, and typically I have a couple of different sites, and I always recommend people who want to, kind of take this a little bit more seriously than just like throwing a couple of dollars on this. I mean, to have more than one site to compare. So I only had one site. This is what I'm going off. I also, to be honest with you, I didn't really see a lot as far as the player prop goes themselves, the actual player propositions. I'm not talking about game props. I mean, I saw some there that I kind of liked. But the player propositions, I did not see anything that I really liked. And a lot of a reason for that could be that the lines haven't really moved just yet. And a lot of times on Sunday afternoon and then Sunday evening, right heading into the game, there's so much action that these lines tend to move, and you tend to see some value. Especially getting like some pluses or whatever. Like sometimes even the line itself will move significantly. So and then in addition to that, the team, the San Francisco 49ers, have been like a team that have, in my opinion and in my view, just as someone who has bet props, has not been an easy team to predict, because they kind of, similar to the Baltimore Ravens, I think those two particular teams, and there may have been a couple of others during the year, that I had a hard time really handicapping and kind of predicting kind of the game flow and how I saw the props, the props turning out. So finding the value in the props, because of how the team could like really run the ball really, really, really successfully, or all of a sudden the team has to like Garoppolo against the Arizona Cardinals all of a sudden is like a top 5 quarterback. So I mean they're not playing the Arizona Cardinals this week, so they may be able to actually run the ball this time. So what was the question?
Yeah,
the question is, do you have any props?
Your favorite props that you're targeting this week.
Okay, so my favorite prop. We'll stay on Mahomes a little bit. I again, this is my book, and yours may be different. I went on DraftKings Sportsbook, and they have the under 2.5 touchdowns from Mahomes, laying somewhere around the 35 maybe cents or something like that. My book has him even, under 2.5 even. So I immediately jumped on that, just kind of a little bit of a comparison. I feel like I'm getting value, and I like the prop, not just because of the value. Same thing with the under on his total yards. it seems like everyone's liking that. But again, my book has 312.5 total yards, and it seems like everyone else has around 300. So I feel like I'm winning there. Another one I kind of like is what's his name? I keep forgetting his first name. I have the running back, Thompson. What's his name? Not DeAndre. What's his name?
Darwin,
yeah. Darwin Thompson, the over-under on him catching a pass is pretty much pick 'em. So like 10, 15, 20 cents either way. I can't imagine him, really being involved in this game at all. So especially catching a ball. I mean, maybe he goes in for a couple of plays. Maybe there's a broken play and he catches the ball. But I really feel that under half a catch on him is a pretty reasonable assumption. What else? And then I have a few like game props if you guys are interested in. So these aren't like player props.
Absolutely.
So one that I liked was a 2-point conversion. So I found, will there be a 2-point conversion attempt in the game? So if you kind of think about that, let me ask you guys a question, because I did the same thing with Mike in the office today. What would you set the line on the 2-point conversion attempted by either team for the game?
I have a number in mind, but I'll let Block you.
I don't. I mean, it's.
Make a decision. Make a commitment.
No, I mean it's
say something.
it's probably close to a pick 'em, like maybe minus 110, minus 115, something like that. I don't know.
I would say minus like 150.
There you go. See, so Balky's actually correct, but I'm with you, Dave.
He's correct with the line, but
he's correct with the line.
That was the question.
Right. Yeah, he's correct with.
I thought you said, what do you think the actual? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
No, what I was saying that Balky's correct with the actual line. You, Dave, is correct with your assumption because it's similar to mine. Because my assumption is that the line should be yes. And by the way, you think yes minus 150, Dave.
Correct. Yeah, I feel like it's likely to happen like at a minus 150.
Yeah,
Right.
so I felt the same. I feel the same thing. I feel like the line here should be at least minus 135. Maybe even as high as 150, and my book has minus 105. So it's actually the underdog. So the over or yes is the underdog. So I kind of like that. And then on the same thought process, what do you guys think the 2-point conversion made would be? What do you think the line would be on that by either team?
I would just say plus like 200 probably.
I would say plus 180, plus 170.
50,
yeah.
Right, and so it's plus 210. So yeah, exactly, Dave, and you're right on point. So, minus 105 on the attempt, plus 210 on the actual conversion. So I kind of like both of those. I feel they're, just being able to handicap it and being able to just think how the game, this could be a high-scoring game, could be a lot of stuff going on, maybe a missed extra point, maybe, like some team needs to, get the 2-point conversion to make it a 7-point lead or an 8-point lead, whatever, So I could see a lot of that stuff happening.
Plus, the other thing, though, about that, just not to interrupt you, but the thing that's nice is if you bet both of those props, it's super fun because if they line up for the 2-point, you're like, yes, I got this one. And now you're just rooting for them to actually score. So it's like, I don't know, twice as much fun.
Correct. Well, if I'm going to bet one, I'm going to bet both. Right. So I totally agree with you there. And that's why I mentioned them together. The other one, another one that I kind of liked is conversion. On the conversion thought, this San Francisco convert a 4th down. Oh, here you go. So this is both teams. It's two separate props, right? Will San Francisco convert a 4th down? And will a Kansas City convert a 4th down? Now, they have to convert. Now, just go for it. Will they have to convert? So think about it. What would you make the line for that?
So these are different props, so they don't have to do it together. They just have to do it independently.
Independently, correct. Each team, yeah. So Kansas City converting a 4th down. What's the line on that?
I don't know, plus 115, 120.
Dave?
Yeah, actually that doesn't sound too bad, actually, because I feel like there's a better than 50% chance they actually go for it and probably a 60 to 70% chance they make it on average. And you have different opportunities, right? Because you have and so much more nowadays with the people using statistics. Teams go for it a whole lot more often and more frequently, and then you still have the late game stuff where a team that's desperate is going to be going for it on fourth down and trying to convert.
Yeah. So you guys probably, and I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but you probably would not like this line because the line on both teams is minus 105, and I still thought that was a good value, but I would absolutely love it if it was plus 25 instead of minus 105. But I kind of don't mind it at minus 105 either.
Okay.
Another one.
That's pretty. The thing is, if you bet both of them again, all you need to do is hit one of the two, and you're breaking even at least more or less. And then if you get both, you're in great shape.
Correct. And I've done that many times over the years. I've done exactly what you just said. I bet both kind of bets that work together, that almost kind of play together, play off each other a little bit. Where I feel like if I hit one of them, I'm break even, and there's a good chance I could hit both. So another one is San Francisco sacks under 2.5. Like, what would you think? So knowing what you know about Mahomes, being hard to sack, and knowing what you know about San Francisco, obviously, being a sack defense, what would you set the line at under 2.5? I'm assuming you like the under 2.5 if I was to give you the line. So what would you set the line, the money line on?
Minus 125, maybe.
I
would think it'd be bet up to like minus 160 to 180. Would be my guess.
There you go. So we're thinking again. Eric has it very close to the actual line, and Dave, you and I thinking along the same way as far as the value of the bet. So it's minus 135, and I like that because I think it should be around 150 at least. So I kind of like the under there. If you, again, this is why it's so important to kind of have maybe either a good book that's, it's not giving you touristy lines, or have more than one that you could compare and kind of find the good value. Because if you're not getting the good value on some of these plays, you should just pass.
Yep. Alex, let me interrupt you. I want to ask you one thing. Do you think that Vegas and these sports books, do you think they're more dialed in on player props on Super Bowl weekend, or because there's so many of them, they're less dialed in on the value that you can get?
I think they're very dialed in on Super Bowl. What happens is what I mentioned before, is the line movement. And I'll give you an example. Last week, 2 weeks ago, Derrick Henry opened, I think, at 109 and a half yards, okay? And it was like over minus 40, whatever. So he started getting bid up and bid up and bid up. When the line went off, at least in my book, again, this is just, I can only speak for one website, but nevertheless, the line went off at 119 and a half plus 40 on the under.
Wow.
You can imagine that. Obviously, I took the under. Obviously, I took the under simply for the value, and plus I really did think, there was a good chance that Kansas City was going to stop the run, which, they kind of did. I mean, he could have, I guess if you look at the first half, he was kind of trending to possibly hit that number. But nevertheless, I won.
But the game script went away from him, which was very likely to happen given the point spread.
Right.
Correct. So the point is, again, it's really they set the lines pretty good. They're pretty sharp as far as setting the lines. But what happens is they have to move the line as the bets come in, very similar to kind of to the way you see a lot of movement in college basketball or college football lines, especially college basketball. I mean, you see just ridiculous amount of movement. I mean, you could have lines move 3-4 points in either direction. So I think they think they're dialed in, but then they just have to adjust because they want even action on both sides.
Alex, do you have any more good team props that you're looking at that maybe you've shopped around or what have you that you're really liking for Super Bowl Sunday?
There was one that I never do this, but I never lay. I've always told you I never lay more than 30 cents. But if you ever wanted to lay like a lot of wood, I'm talking like 4-1. So this particular prop is minus 450. That means you got to lay 450 to win 100. Okay, but I actually think this particular prop, the line is actually better than the odds, or more valuable than the odds. So this is whether Kittle will have a rush in the game or not. And I know everyone remembers him having a rush here and there. I think he even scored a touchdown. But he only had 5 rushes for the entire year. And 2 of those came in one game. So, if you kind of just do the math, you're like, he had 4 games that he had a rush, like 4 out of whatever, like 15, 16, 17 games. I don't know how many he actually played. So you laying minus 450 for him not to have a rush are all pretty much true odds. And how often do you get true odds? I mean, you rarely get true odds. So I kind of like that, although I probably wouldn't, go and lay all that wood, but I kind of like it.
Could you imagine you're betting that, though, and Kittle motions in the backfield. Every time he motions in the backfield, like, God, no, don't do it. You bet your whole rest of your bankroll for the weekend on it.
Yeah, of course. So, listen, if this is if you're gonna throw 50 props into it, and this is one of your 50, I think it's fine. But yeah, if this is your big play, then don't do it. Another one is also same idea as far as laying the wood. Gould or Gold, however you pronounce his name, missing a field goal. What would you set that line at Gould missing a field goal for the game?
That one has to. I don't know.
I'm betting that he is going to miss a field goal.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm missing a field goal. Plus 240.
I don't think I would go that high on it. I think it'd be more like plus 170, something like that.
Actually, no. It's will he miss a field goal is plus. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. It's plus 280 that he will miss a field goal.
Oh, I'm on board. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not.
Yeah.
All right.
So I kind of like that. I don't know why I have it at minus 280. Sorry, I'll be better prepared next time.
We got it.
You have a year to do it, so you're all set.
At least we were on the right side of the plus minus. It shows we were kind of paying attention.
All right, I got a couple. I got a couple more if you have the time. So
go for it.
Sure.
So total San Francisco. I have it written in on Post-its, and so I got my reading glasses. So I'm trying to figure out what I wrote here. Total San Francisco. Oh, this is actually an interesting one. So we could actually handicap this together. Total San Francisco rushing attempts. Players to have a rushing attempt. The line is 5. Okay, the line is 5, and over plus 15. So it's got to be. You have to hit 6 to win. But looking back at how many players rush the ball on San Francisco, I think they've only had 2 games out of maybe the last 12, if I'm not mistaken, that 4 players have rushed the ball. So it's almost like a lock that 5 players will rush the ball for San Francisco. And then obviously there's a decent, there's a chance that a 6th player could rush. So I don't mind that too much. I think it's a worst case break-even scenario. And then if you hit the over, you get the plus 15 cents. So I kind of like that.
Do we know? And Dave, maybe you know this. Has Tevin Coleman? Did they say he's in for this game? Because that would make that. I
thought he was good to go. Yeah.
Okay, so that'll make that even more attractive if he's going to go.
Yeah, I don't know if that even matters, to be honest with you, because I think they're going to use 2 running backs for sure, no matter what, whether Coleman goes or not. And there's a good chance that they're going to use a 3rd one. So it doesn't matter. You just fill in the names. So whether it's, Mostert, Breida, and Wilson, or Mostert, Coleman, and Breida, I think there's a good chance that either 2 or 3 of those guys will rush the ball. So, and then the last one that I have here is reception. So players to have a reception. This is a really good one because you have to lay the wood. San Francisco amount of players to have a reception in the game, and the line is actually seven, and under is -70. So basically, they're saying that 6 players have to have a reception, and 7 you tie, 8 you lose. And as much as I hate to lay all that wood, I actually like the under in this play. Again, I just went back. Yeah, I do, and the reason why is I went back, and I believe the last 2 games that there was more than 7 players in San Francisco to catch the ball, they were both against San Francisco, and it was those weird, crazy games that they played against San Francisco that for some reason, they just were throwing the ball to like the backup tight ends, and I think one of those games Kittle was out completely, so they had both backup tight ends running around, and stuff like that. So I kind of like that for some reason. And the same idea with Kansas City, except the line is 7.5 players to have a reception, and you're only laying 30 cents. So I like the under 7.5 -30 on Kansas City.
I like it. It's going to be fun. Alex, before we let you go, can you give us a final score prediction on this game?
Final score is this is pretty much just it's, what is it called when you really want something badly? It's well,
I don't know what
I want the score to be is, it's 34-28 San Francisco. San Francisco 34, Kansas City 28. And I have a good reason to want that score.
I got it. I understand fully. Say no more, my friend. I get it. Hey, listen, man, this was awesome having you come on. I know you helped out plenty of people with a lot of these prop suggestions tonight. And good stuff. We'll talk to you next year.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Alex Kaganoski, co-founder of the FFPC. Follow him on Twitter at Alex_FFPC, and that's going to do it for our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Alex. I want to thank Bob Hoog, our first guest tonight, the runner-up in the Footballguys Players Championship, Dave Gerzak, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you. Want to remind everybody, coming up this coming Thursday, rotoviz.com/podcast, 2019 FFPC main event, 5th place team owner Adam Krautwurst is going to be on the High Stakes Lowdown, so check that out. Looking forward to talking to him and getting his insight on some 2020 drafts, which he's already in this year. Pick up Dynasty Orphans today. Plenty of them need a good home, and they are good teams, ladies and gentlemen. myffpc.com/dynasty, and, of course, best ball drafts going on at myffpc.com right now at the $35, $77, and $250 levels. Your Super Bowl weekend starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com that was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
We're on the team floor, even more so if we on tour. Me and E explore the country, wondering about the evening before. Trying to explain where the time went, while other rappers find a studio to grind in.
Hey, Dave, Alex and I made our Super Bowl predictions. You did not make yours. Do you have a prediction on final score of the game, how you see it happening?
Yeah, I as of right now, I kind of like the Niners. I'll just go 27-24.
27-24 Niners. All right.
Prediction, but
Super Bowl MVP Jimmy Garoppolo with 27 points. Or do you think like it's Nick Bosa or Debo Samuel, Raheem Mostert? What a story that would be.
I guess it's probably going to be Garoppolo if they score 27. Maybe he has 2 touchdowns.
All right. Good stuff, man. I appreciate you doing the show this week. I know you got to catch an early flight tomorrow.
It's definitely no problem. I enjoyed it.
Oh, good. I'm glad you did. And enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy your weekend. It's going to be fun. And I hope everybody else out there enjoys the Super Bowl as well. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again next Friday.